Dead Rising Deluxe Remaster adds an additional 10 books to the game, 8 that spawn in the mall organically, and 2 that are unlocked through achievements. Since it's been a week since the game came out and no one's made a video showing them off, I figured I would do so. Odds are half of you found me through that tier list I did on the books anyway. I'll describe and showcase what they do, give my thoughts on them, and give alternative ideas for the ones I'm not crazy about. The first book is Toy Modding, which can be found in Wonderland Plaza's play area, near the food court. It has toy weapons deal far more damage, allowing them to become lethal weapons even at lower levels, while having a hilarious amount of knockback. This one's nice. Now you don't have to play Chop Till You Drop for the toy laser sword to be an actual weapon. In fact, that game's buff of the toy laser sword may have been what inspired this book. I do wish it was combined with the toy durability book the game already has though. I get why they didn't, but toy items are pretty useless without this book, and toy items lasting 3 times longer are really not any more useful without this book. On the top floor of Wonderland in the smaller sports shop, right next to the space ride, you'll find the Pictures book. It increases the damage of thrown weapons. I hate this book in its entirety. First, I'm very picky about what context books should be allowed to increase damage. In cases where the level up system shouldn't be expected to do enough, like barehanded or with toys, I'm fine with it. But throwing weapons getting good damage shouldn't require a book, and a book shouldn't bypass the level up system. The second issue is that this book is pickier than I am. Ammo-based weapons like soda cans or plates are not affected by it, neither are certain naturally ranged weapons like the soccer ball or the toy cubes. I think this is meant to make it so Frank can be an improvised throwing expert, like Logan is in Dead Island. But the third problem is how throwing damage works in Dead Rising. Weapon durability is actually the weapon's health bar, and different attacks take different amounts of durability off it. This is actually how they made Larry's meat carcasses disappear when he used them. They're technically items that Frank can't pick up. They take 0 damage from all attacks, but lose all their health when thrown. This means that most weapons break far faster when thrown than when using their melee attacks. And most weapons do less damage when thrown. That's probably where the idea for this book started. But it means most weapons will break before they achieve anything against a boss. Some weapons even break instantly when thrown. This brings the fourth problem, how throwing damage works in this remake. Namely, that it doesn't. Throwing damage across the board is utterly borked. I don't know if this game is bugged and range damage doesn't get affected by level ups, or if they just made the stupid call of nerfing the already middling range combat in Dead Rising. But if at level 50 the enhanced throwing damage can't one-shot a zombie at nighttime with a bat, I'm comfortable saying it's too weak one way or the other. So to replace this book, on top of the fact that I would just buff range damage across the board, I'd make it a skilled durability book like the skateboards and bicycles have. Boomerang theory. This would make it so items that specialize in throwing return as soon as they become inactive, on top of making them last 3 times as long. Inactive refers to the point when a weapon is no longer attacking and can be picked up again. This would work on the boomerang, saw blade, soccer ball, toy cube, rat saucer, rat stick, bowling ball, which would be deemed inactive once the speed lowers to a point where it can't deal damage, and both the hunting knife and kitchen knife, 'cause throwing knives. The gym in Alfresca Plaza has the martial arts book. This allows you to use every skill move in the game regardless of level. Once Frank reaches level 50, it becomes a second version of wrestling, stacking with the original. I'm not crazy for this one either, although it's more justified than the last one. I feel bad for players getting spoiled on all the moves they can unlock as soon as they defeat Carlito, but it does allow for more interesting no-weapon runs, so I will concede it's fine, however reluctantly. The idea I really like here is books getting secondary effects when Frank reaches level 50. The PP earning book should really have stuff like that. In fact, that might be a future video idea. Inside the women's clothing store where you find Bert and Aaron, you'll find the fashion magazine. This gives you a stat called Toughness whenever you change outfits, which cuts your damage received in half. So it's basically Painkiller from Dead Rising 2 in book form. First, I don't like the idea of cosmetics having an effect on gameplay. Just as a general rule, not even just for Dead Rising.
What the hell are you wearing?
It's my ass-kicking outfit, bitch!
It's nowhere near as egregious as the bonus costumes from Dead Rising 2, but I'm still not on board with it. But more importantly, I would have rather just had Painkiller added as a mixed drink. It would certainly be a better selling point. In fact, here's how that should have been done. First, have it heal only 3 blocks instead of 6. Doubling the player's health for a minute is stupidly good, so making it the worst mixed drink in terms of healing is a fair trade-off. Second, add some new healing items, which this remake does not do, that specialize in making it. I'd say coffee and whiskey are the easy two to go for. I'm putting the hypothetical recipes for Painkiller and Dead Rising 1 on screen. It might seem cheap to make 2 items that specialize in it, but given that most fruit results in nectar and wine, dairy, and frozen vegetables are reserved to a quick step, I'd say it's on brand. It also means no existing recipes need to be modified or scrapped for Painkiller to be added. As for the book itself, as simple as this idea is, I'd rename it to Woman's Digest, and have products marketed to women last 3 times as long. I really think the first Dead Rising would have benefited from a few more durability books as a whole. The items I'd have boosted by this book would be the lipstick prop, perfume prop, handbag, the mannequin and its individual parts, potted plants, push brooms, shampoo, frying pan, and finally it'd triple the amount of gems each clump carries. The food court has hypnotism tips, which cuts the damage survivors take through the power of hypnosis. I appreciate sticking to the naming convention of brainwashing tips. That's a nice detail. That said, I don't think this was the best effect this book could have been given. I don't know exactly how much damage it reduces by, but to be fair, it was noticeable during testing. I would have preferred it to be more like Dead Rising 2's leadership book, which allows injured survivors to move without help. Another option could have been to make it so players could befriend survivors faster, given the new affinity system. So, yeah, I'm not sure I'd say this was the best option for a second Survivor book, but it's not a bad one. Also in the food court is Gunslingers, which increases the damage of firearms. It may surprise you, but I really like this one. For those who don't know or never noticed, firearms in classic Dead Rising are completely independent of the level up system. A level 1 Frank or Chuck will be just as capable with a shotgun as their future level 50 counterpart. So this does do something for you that you can't achieve just by grinding out PP. It even works on nail guns, stun guns, and water guns. My only issue is that it's just laying out there where you fight Carlito. This really should have been a reward for defeating Cletus. In the North Plaza Camera Shop, you'll find the aptly named Photo Opportunity book. It makes the game enter slow mode whenever the player enters camera mode. This is the best book the game adds. It's a powerful but niche buff that helps those going for a camera build. And from getting an exact shot the player just wants to casually find, to a good chance to grab a photo opportunity from a boss, to the likely unintended effect of it being safer to try to get a PP sticker mid-battle, this just feels right at home with the original game. Right down to being something off the record would have to drop because of the co-op. Truly S-tier worthy. On your way to the gun shop, take a left in the hallway to find a side route. Inside you'll find the fireworks book. This makes it so projectiles like soda cans and gemstones explode on contact. However, there's no actual blast radius to them, or if there is, it's so small I couldn't tell any difference in testing. So, once you get past the admittedly satisfying explosion effects and sounds, it just boosts the damage for this specific type of ranged weapon. Unlike the pitching book, it's at least noticeable in terms of its damage buff. However, at risk of sounding like a conspiracy nut, I can't help but wonder if range damage wasn't nerfed to make some of these books more useful. However, this one does have a better idea, as adding a secondary effect to a thrown weapon would be more appropriate for books. This instead should have been the pitching book, and make it so that when items like this are thrown, they catch fire. This would allow ranged weapons to put every zombie on borrowed time. And instead of buffing the damage outright, make it so that way it always does headshot damage no matter where it lands, without actually counting as a headshot so you don't accidentally kill survivors at level 50. Those are the 8 books you naturally find in the mall, but 2 more can be unlocked through achievements. The first is the Blender Guide. This is rewarded for surviving 3 days in the mall. The player doesn't need to actually get the true ending, just see any given run through to the end. It spawns next to the new security room Blender once gotten. It allows the blender to put anything into a blender, not just food. It's a really funny effect, spawning a completely random mixed drink regardless of what weapons are put in. However, it's also a cheat code book, as certain combinations spawn late-game weapons like the machete, the meat cleaver, or the Spec Ops machine gun. It's a really clever way to give players access to these weapons on New Game Plus much earlier. Probably the second best book behind Photo Opportunity. The Saint achievement also now has a new reward in the form of a book. If the player can get 50 survivors out of the mall in a single run, they are rewarded with a book that gives unlimited weapon durability and ammo. Alright, I know my experience and knowledge of the series affect how I look at things, and to a new player, 50 survivors in one run is a tall order. However, Saint is nowhere near hard enough of an achievement to invalidate the durability system in its entirety. If it was locked behind 7-Day Survivor, I'd get it. Even with the fast forward feature, it isn't easy and it is still time consuming, especially if a run fails. It would also make it so getting the remaining achievements is much easier. But for Saint, it's just too easy given how it breaks the game in half, especially for longtime fans like myself who likely got it on the first run. So, when it came to adding these new books, the running theme I noticed was trying to add stuff that would change how the game was played from the original. And as a mindset, I can respect that from the developers. In practice, though, simpler may have been better. Adding durability books would have made more weird playstyles you can only do in Dead Rising more viable. Like, imagine a cooking book that triples the use of frying pans, canned food, and the king salmon. Or if Joe Slade dropped a first responder book that made it so handguns, nightsticks, and fire extinguishers last 3 times as long. Part of the reason I'm being so critical of these is that this is it. Beyond the rocket launcher, some camera parts that did not need to be playthrough-specific collectibles, and the infinity mode working differently, these are the only new content this version has. And if I'm being honest, most of it just makes the game easier. While I stand by that photo op is the best of these new books, it just makes it easier to get photos. It doesn't actually let you do something you literally couldn't before. The firearms and toy modding books are probably the most game-changing additions, since you can now do a pistol and toy laser sword run if you really want to. But beyond that, everything else just seems to be making the game less difficult, rather than actually opening opportunities up. So in the end, I respect the intent, but I'm truly underwhelmed by the result.